Oh, Sharon Bannon.
Sharon, please.
I didn't bother to sit. Good evening.
Wait, Matt will get it. There we go.
Okay, I can do that. Good evening. There's an insinuation in the signage of the district that anyone against the facilities levy is against the children, and that's preposterous. If anyone is against the children, it would be those who allowed what you call poor conditions to exist without remediation. What I'm against is the secretive methods used and the loaded committee, not asking the public, but assigning people that you know and are connected to. And of course, none of us knowing there was a committee being formed, and no opportunity for discussion of alternative solutions. You Delphied your committee and ramrodded this to a premature vote at a time of the year when most people aren't paying attention, so of course it would make one a little suspect. It took ingenuity and creativity to get this done in such a manner and so quickly as you did. How about using that same creative ingenuity to do this in the daylight? Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Okay, on the consent agenda, we have a minor change, and Bobby, if you'll please address that.
Sure. So when I first proposed the meal price changes to you, USDA had recommended an adult meal price of $3.65, which is the minimum price we're allowed to charge because adult meal prices cannot be subsidized by federal dollars. And so that's what the $3.65 was for. Since then, they have sent an update to us saying that the minimum adult price now can be $3.67 because the commodity rate has increased. However, that's based on a 6% sales tax rate, and since we have two different sales tax within our school district, one would be $3.67, and then the in-town schools would be $3.70. So my proposal to the amendment would be to have a universal figure and have $3.77 or $3.70 across the district, rather than have various adult meal prices at each school location.
So you want to amend the meal price change recommendation to the adult price of $3.70?
Yes, for lunch only, and everything else that I propose would stay the same.
Okay, I'll need a motion for that.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve the price change to $3.70 for adult meals, and the rest of it is okay.
Second.
Moved and second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nobody opposed. Okay, it passed unanimously. Thank you, Bobby. And I'll now entertain a motion on the consent agenda now that that item is changed.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Great, let's move in second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to hand these two things over to Superintendent Woodward. They are new certifications for two teachers, and I don't know if you're going to call on the principals, or you're just going to go ahead and do
Probably
that?
just call on each of them just to real briefly share what the situation is for each of the teachers, and we'll start with Jeff Penrose.
Thank you. We are looking for an alternative authorization to add just the health endorsement to Colleen Ross, who already holds the full physical education endorsement, K-12. In the past, we've been able to finesse through IC by putting it under our family consumer science in some cases, and in other cases putting it under a supervising teacher at Sandpoint High. With the advent of IC rule changes, however, we can no longer use that supervising teacher route, and we no longer have a full family consumer science teacher. We have a culinary arts teacher. We will be trying to get fully certified later, but right now we just have the culinary arts. So health is a required course in our district and state, and Colleen has taught it many times under various other ways, and so I asked her to just go ahead and get certified herself in that. We believe it will require just one class at University of Idaho for her to get that, so it'll be very easy to do.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Good.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I'll need a motion for that.
I make a motion, we approve the change to the culinary arts program.
No. This is approval of alternate authorization teacher.
Alternative authorization for Colleen Ross.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and second. Moved and seconded. And any more discussion, questions for Mr. Penrose? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. By the way, for you that don't know, that Trustee Geraldine Lewis is back east, and so she's joining us by telephone. We got her mic'd up. So if you hear this little voice coming out of the ethers, that's what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kemick, he's here.
Yep. Phil Kenneth from Clark Fork. I hired a new science teacher, and as you guys know, I've got basically one science teacher for all high school courses. Her endorsement area is in biology. She has about 15 years in, I'll say, the field, working for the feds and for the state, so she has a lot of science background. However, once again, IEC codes require a certain endorsement area, and so we are going after the natural sciences alternative authorization for her so she can teach all high school sciences.
How many teachers do you have now?
8.5 FTE.
Now, does she have the background for teaching the other classes?
She does. She has done a lot of microbiology. She's done all kinds of stuff. And in the sciences, when you go through college, they make you take the whole game.
Everything, yeah. Okay.
So
Now, does she have to take any courses to get?
she's going through the ABCTE route to teacher certification, and she has already spoken to the people down the state. And basically, she has to take the praxis tests and pass them, and then she should be good to go.
Okay, good enough.
All right.
Okay, any additional questions?
Any more, Phil? No?
Thank you.
Phil.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the alternate authorization teacher to new certification for Rebecca, is it Hogg or Hack? Hack at Clark Fork.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more questions for Phil?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now I'd like to introduce and invite up our two candidates for Trustee Zone 2. Matt Meyer, if you come up and have a seat, and Gary Suffolker. We have two hot seats for you guys. And I'm just gonna do a quick review of what the process is, and then we'll just go ahead and start. So, this is an interview process where we have 12 questions. And before we get too far this, I have a question for Geraldine. Geraldine, do you want to be included in the round robin, or?
No, I think it's easier if you three read the 12 questions. That way I'll just listen in.
Okay, sounds good. We'll do a little round robin. Both candidates get the same question. Once we get through the questions, I'll open it up for nominations. Accept nominations, and then when that's done, close nominations. We'll vote for the nominees in order that they were proposed. And so, it's with two people. It should be a pretty swift process. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. Shirley, why don't you go ahead and take question number 1? And we'll start with Matt. He's on our left, and just.
Why do you want to become a board member?
Sure. I guess Lake Pond Area School District means quite a bit to me. Both my wife and I are products of Lake Pond Area School District, having graduated from Sandpoint High School a number of years ago now, and now we have children in the school district. So I guess I would say I'm very vested in the goings-on of our school district. Beyond that, I'm just extremely passionate about kids and their successes and the role that both what they learn in the classroom and then other activities associated with school plays in their development. A number of things that I'm involved in as far as other boards and other activities seem to all center around children, whether it be coaching or my volunteerism on other nonprofit boards seem to have that common interest. I think that's why I'm here.
Gary?
This is the first time I have sought a democratic position in our democracy. You know, I believe, as Teddy Roosevelt so eloquently exposed over 100 years ago, that it's the duty of all citizens to participate in their democracy, you know, not only as observers, but as active participants. I chose education to become participant because I'm very passionate for education. Education has served me very well. I'm a product of public education. My public K-12 public education, you know, led me to a very selective university, you know, a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and then a career, you know, in my chosen field that has lasted over 30 years from now. My children, you know, went to this. I have 3 children that all went K-12 in this school district. They all thrived in this school district. This school district provided them with the basic education which they are using to go on. My oldest son Gerhardt, we just found out this week, he now has a master's degree in engineering, and he's accepted a job with as a rocket scientist in Texas, and he's going to build rockets for NASA. My middle child, Madeline, is pursuing medicine. She's going to be a senior in college at Washington University, one of the most selective colleges in the country. And my youngest child, Caroline, who just graduated this year, is also going to attend Washington University and major in business. You know, and my other motivation for retaining this seat is this seat has quite a legacy. There's been some great board members from this seat, including my neighbor Vicki Pfeiffer, and this seat has always been held by someone who's very supportive for education and is a huge advocate for public education, and I want to make sure that this seat stays in good hands.
Okay. What do you see as the board's roles and responsibilities?
Want me to go first on this
Yeah,
one?
why don't you do it first this time?
Well, the board has a tremendous role and responsibility. You know, the board is, first of all, it's a guardian for over $30 million in public funds, but even greater than that, you know, we provide the education which is the future for over 3,000 children. You know, and that is a tremendous responsibility. You know, so I take this very seriously, you know, to use the resources that the state and the community have provided with us to provide, you know, the very best education possible for all the children in this community.
Thank you.
I think a lot of the same the thoughts there. I think obviously one of the roles is a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that we're getting the proper return, if you will, with those taxpayer dollars, and obviously we measure those returns with the successes that our respective schools are having, and ultimately the successes of the individual children. I think, you know, our responsibility is to help kind of navigate the directions that the school's headed, not on from a day-to-day perspective, but be somewhat of a conduit with our community, hear what's going on, be that person to bring issues or concerns that are in the community back to this forum. You know, be supportive of the teachers, be supportive of the direction that Superintendent Woodward is leading the charge, and I think that's our role and responsibility as a trustee.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we'll come back to Matt. Do you have sufficient time and energy to devote to this position?
Absolutely. I wouldn't wouldn't have thrown my name in the hat if I wasn't 100% committed to carry out the responsibilities, the important responsibilities that come with this position. I do have a relatively full plate. I do have a full-time job, have 3 young children, and serve on a number of other boards. So I'm not without other commitments for sure, but I think those who work around me professionally or who serve on other boards would attest that I don't sit just on the sidelines and let other people do the work. I definitely have a habit, good or bad, of jumping in head first and taking on leadership positions within those respective boards or work duties. So my intent here would be to roll up my sleeves and go to work just like I have in every other situation in my life. It's not to sit back and claim the fame of being a trustee. I think it is a recognized and high-profile position. That's not why I'm here. It's for the reasons I stated in that first question.
I was concerned about this very question when this seat ended, when the seat opened up. And I also have a family, and I also have a job. In fact, I own a business. I have 40 employees that I work with on a daily basis, as well as a number of other contractors and suppliers. And I take my relationship with them very seriously. So I consulted with 2 current board members and 1 former board member about the obligations of this job. And based on the input they gave me about the time commitment, I decided to pursue. It's also a good time for me because my youngest child, just graduated from high school. So my wife and I no longer have children at home, so that I haven't gone into senility yet, and I no longer have children at home. So I have that void to fill into my life, and I would like to dedicate that, to the time spent on this board. And I intend to be not a passive board member, but an active board member. I want to take this very seriously and dig into all the requirements and all the obligations of a board member and execute this position just as positively as I can.
Jerry, we'll start with you again.
Gary.
Gary?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What qualities and behaviors should board members exhibit?
What qualities and behaviors should board members exhibit? Of course, integrity, honesty, communication skills. Board members need to be work collaboratively. We are a board. We are not a dictatorship. We are a board. We need to work together. We need to work collaboratively. We need to share ideas. I'm a person that if someone else has a better idea than I do, I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge that. I want education to go forward in this community, with the very, very best intentions.
I think some of the attributes that he suggested and he's passionate about, I would echo as far as integrity and honesty. I think also knowing our role is key and what that looks like out in the community in our day-to-day lives and how we interact with teachers and other administration, because it is a small town. We're going to have those interactions just socially or professionally, and making sure we know our role there. Again, to be able to work as a group and check our individual egos and our preconceived ideas and thoughts and backgrounds at the door. Come here to educate ourselves on what's going on, take the information that's presented to us, ensure that we're educated or up to speed on what's going on, and consult as a group to make the best decision for the district, not for anything that's self-serving. And I think ultimately that's the number one priority, is to make sure we always have that in mind, that we're here for not ourselves, not for, with all due respect, for Superintendent Woodward. It's ultimately about the results of the kids. So.
Okay, what do you see as the role of the superintendent
Yeah, I think
in this system?
Yeah, I think that role probably is pretty fluid, depending on the point in time in the year and different phases of life for the district. I think ultimately I liken the position I got to believe as to a CEO of a public company where you have a tremendous amount of employees flowing up to you, where you're kind of guiding the ship and making sure the vision is being carried out on a day-to-day perspective, but also has a tremendous responsibility to communicate the day-to-day, what's going on, kind of upstream to the trustees who we come in from our day-to-day lives, without the best intentions in mind, but aren't there on the ground every day, and so being able to communicate that to us and kind of have that open dialogue. And so I think for me, and I've seen it firsthand, I think one of the most important things from that super role is the ability to communicate on a lot of different levels and a lot of different situations, knowing that your suggestions, your ideas or directions not going to be unanimously in favor of the entire community at large. And so but understanding that and knowing that the interest of the children is at heart.
The superintendent's the most strategic position in the district. The superintendent is the eyes and ears and feet and hands of the board. The board, sets the policy, provides the resources, establishes the plan, but it's the superintendent's responsibility to execute that plan. And the superintendent is accountable to the board, on a quantitative basis for meeting the goals of the board. It's also the superintendent's role, to work with, to select and work with the administrators that he puts in the schools, to execute the plan for the students, to work with the students, to work with the state, to work with the federal government. He just wears a myriad of hats. He's right in the middle of everything, and having an excellent superintendent, I think choosing the superintendent, I think is probably the most important single thing that the board does. Because the board members, they're not educators, they're volunteers, they're part-time, they do everything they can, but it's the superintendent that's there in the trenches every day to execute the plan.
Thank you.
Do board members or the board have a role in the day-to-day operation of the district? And can you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
Do board members have a role in the day-to-day operation of the district? It's the board members' responsibility, to be out in the community, to talk to patrons of the district, to get their feeling for the direction of the district. Also to be in the schools, talking to administrators, talking to students, observing programs, reviewing curriculum. So it's the board members' responsibility to gather information, to accumulate information, to formulate ideas. But on a day-to-day basis, is it the board members' responsibility to interfere in the operation of the district? No, absolutely not. That's the superintendent's day-to-day job. I think the board members should take the input that he gets in the community, in the schools, in the state, on a day-to-day basis, gather all that information, articulate all that information, discuss that with other board members at the appropriate time, and use that, in the planning in the future. But to interfere on a day-to-day basis with the decisions of the district, no, that's not the board member's role.
Second part to that was, can you support a board decision that you are not in favor of?
Oh, absolutely. The board is collaborative, and the board is 5 people that all probably differ at times. You know, board members have to work together. You know, there's going to be times when you don't agree with board members. There's going to be times when you're on the minority on the board, and you know, you have to respect, you know, the democratic process of which you're part of, and honor the decision of the majority of the board.
Yeah, with respect to the day-to-day role, absolutely not. I don't think it's our role to meddle in what's going on in the schools, what's going on in the classrooms. I think that undermines the hierarchy of how the teachers, principals, and other staff are held accountable. I certainly think we have a responsibility to keep our eyes and ears open to what's going on, what are the sentiments of community members, and take that information that's appropriate and share it in the proper forum, and do that without meddling kind of behind the scenes or undermining what's going on. I think that's just kind of critical from a board perspective to be doing that. Second part of the question, absolutely, and it's a must. You know, as was mentioned, you know, you're a board of 5 people with different viewpoints, a different way of articulating information that's being presented. I think it's healthy that the board differs from time to time. I've always found it troubling with various organizations I've been on in the past when the board's always just unanimously, kind of without thought, just kind of follow one another's suit without healthy dialogue or differing viewpoints on how to attack a situation or problem. And then to the contrary, it's extremely damaging when you have a board member that is out there, again, kind of undermining what was voted upon, what was said at this table, and kind of go in a different direction. I think we have the forum to state your case, state what you think is best. It's certainly in a public setting that your thoughts and opinions are on record, but once the vote has been cast, and if you are in the minority, I think it's your job and your absolute duty to the district to get on board.
What kind of relationship should the board have with its community, with its parents and families?
That's a good question. I think it's a tough one, right? Especially in a small community. I think we're all connected and not very many degrees of separation, and so I think it's important that we are connected to what's going on. We're aware of the issues. We are kind of advocate in the community, in our social settings, in our district, professionally, but we're doing it without, as previously said, without kind of meddling in the day-to-day. From a teacher perspective, I think it's important that we're not being that place for a teacher to complain or sound their issues or concerns. There's a process which that should happen first, and it's go on to their superior. I was the principal, and then onward from there. I think again, if we're kind of undermining that process, I think it can be damaging, and I think it's our job to be out there in the community, understand what's going on, what are the issues, and collaboratively work on those here in this setting, but not kind of privately.
I think our relationship with the community is the core of who we are. This is a democratic process. The community is our constituents. We have to reflect, the community's views in the boardroom. So we have to be out there in the community, listening to community members, having dialogue with community members, educating community members, getting feedback from community members. We have to be accessible. We have to be a good listener. We have to have an open mind. We are going to hear things from the community that we don't agree with, but we have to be a good listener. We have to try to be, to believe in our larger role as an advocate for education. And we have to bring, those ideas, those concerns, to the boardroom. I think even if we don't agree with them, it's important to bring the community's consensus into the boardroom.
What do you see as the current challenges facing the Board of Education plus education itself?
Well, this district, right now, we've got a levy, in what, about 3 weeks? And that is the most pressing issue right now that this district faces, and based on what I read in the Daily Bee today, there's some resistance, there's some misinformation out there, so it's our responsibility as board members to go out in the community to promote the levy, because we absolutely need the levy. The new facilities are needed. So, we have to be a voice, for education. Facilities are part of education. Right now, that is the most urgent thing in our community, is to promote the new facilities levy. Beyond that, I see the most important thing in education is the teachers, frankly, the teachers. No matter what we as board members provide to the district in terms of facilities, curriculum, technology, it all comes down to the teachers. The teachers are the most important ingredient in the formula here. So what this district needs to do is to continue. We have great teachers now, but there's always turnover. So we need to continue to recruit, to hire, to support, to train, to retain great teachers, because we're nothing without our teachers.
I mean, obviously, I think in Idaho, we're always going to have challenges with funding and how we pay for things that we feel are necessary to educate our kids properly. But beyond that kind of always challenging issue, I think right now is understanding and that it's a new era for our children and how they're growing up in the schools. I think their social and emotional well-being, in my opinion, is probably as important as their ability to read, write, and arithmetic. As a parent of 3 young girls, whether they are going to be able to do math or read is not what keeps me up at night. Their ability to deal with the things that are in their face 100% of the time, whether they're at school or not, that's what keeps me up at night. And I think, I know the district's taking measures to have staff in place to better handle those situations. Again, I think it's easy right now. If my child isn't up to par in their reading, I get that report card, right? And it's, okay, we can take those measures. How they're doing socially or emotionally, psychologically, that's a harder tell from the teacher to me as a parent. That's what freaks me out. That's what keeps me up at night, is how are my children, and I would say my children with respect to all children, how are they dealing with a new world? And I think it's critical.
Okay. Describe your personal experience and involvement with public schools in the past 5 years that qualifies you as a school board member.
My obvious experience is day-to-day with my children who are attending the same elementary school that both my wife and I attended. But beyond that obvious just role as a parent, I would say a fairly lengthy volunteerism interest, and again, most of them are focused around kids. I'm on the Panhandle Alliance for Education board, have been so for a little over a year now. which is what they do, is pretty well known by the board. I've also been a part of Bulldog Bench, which is a booster club that supports SHS athletics here in town. I've been on that board, been the treasurer for that organization for about 8 years now. I don't know how many teams I've coached, whether it's my kids or not. And again, I think all those positions help me stay really in tune with the things that kids are struggling with, the things that the district is struggling or succeeding with. I think those roles in those various board situations have situated me well professionally, and my experience on boards to serve, in the right capacity for this seat. I think professionally, I'm very well versed in finances and whatnot, so I think all those things kind of roll up appropriately for the responsibilities of this position.
I've been involved in education for a long time. In the past, I have served on district level committees in this district on levies, budgets, curriculum. I was a chairman of a committee at one time that was the Parent Administration Involvement Committee, where we met monthly with the superintendent or members of his staff. I've been a volunteer in the schools for 12 years. For 12 years, I've been the math coach at Sagal School. I come in 2 days a week in the mornings before school, and I work with 4th, and 5th, and 6th graders who are interested in increasing their math skills. It's an extracurricular program. Children come in voluntarily. I work with them twice a week. We prepare for a couple of competitions that we have in the spring. The first one is the Lake Pend Elementary School Competition, which is in April. The second one is the Washington State Math Olympiad, which is in May. My teams have had tremendous success at both of these functions. This past year, my 6th grade team won back-to-back championships, and I didn't have a 5th grade team, so I entered some 4th graders as a 5th grade team, and my 3 4th graders took 3rd overall in the district in the 5th grade division. We've had comparable success over the years. But the kids I'm most proud of are not the kids that are at the top of their class, but the kids that are showing the most growth. I've had kids come into math club that frankly are in the lower quartile of their class. And we set goals, and we have a plan, and I monitor their plan and support their plan. And by the end of the year, these kids see tremendous growth. I've had principals come into my room with the achievement test scores and say, how is it possible your kids get 3 to 4 times the growth in math as the rest of the kids in the school? So I love working with kids. I'm good at math. I'm good analytically. I have that. The other thing, my wife and I have been very successful as parents in this school district. As some of you know, I have had 3 children that went K-12 in this school district. My youngest child, Caroline, graduated this year. She was valedictorian of her class, and she was president of her class for 4 years. My middle child, Madeline, graduated 3 years ago. She was valedictorian of her class. And my oldest child, Gerhard, who's now the rocket scientist, he graduated in 2011. And he was also valedictorian of his class. So I've raised 3 children. They've all finished at the top of their class. I would hope that I can take maybe a little bit of the success my wife and I have had at home academically into the boardroom. Thank you.
Do you have any specific changes you want to make in school district policies, programs, or the various school curricula being offered? If so, what changes do you want to make and why?
What I like to see, this district has great teachers, and like I said, teachers are the most important thing in the whole program. But from my experience in my math club, I would like to find a way to engage parents more. I have kids come into math club, and I don't think they're getting the support at home that they need to be successful at school. I would like to find a way, I don't know the formula, but I would like to find a way, as a board, as a district, to engage parents, because the teachers can't do it all. I have parents come to me and say, well, my child isn't doing well in school. And I ask, well, did you go to parent-teacher conferences? Were you here on open house night? Do you monitor your child's progress? The school district, has an online grading system. Do you monitor progress? Do you talk to your child about their goals, about their progress in school? Do you ever read to your child? Do you ever do your homework with your child? Teachers can't do it all. Parents are the most important thing. It starts at home, and without the parents being engaged in the achievements of their children, it's going to be very difficult for the school district to continue its success.
I want to be able to learn how to teach math to my third grader, because I thought I knew math, but maybe I don't know how to teach the new way to teach math. I guess all kidding aside with the math program, I think for me there's a tremendous amount of success occurring at the schools. I think statistically the improvements over the last handful of years are outstanding. I think what we're doing from preparing our kids for that secondary education or other trade programs, et cetera, is awesome. And so for me, it would be just kind of jumping on board some of those successes, understanding maybe a little bit more on how we've gotten to those positions, and then understanding better the issues and challenges that are being experienced, day to day, and what is Mr. Woodward dealing with? What are his teachers dealing with? What are the kids dealing with? Understanding those issues, and kind of rolling up my sleeves and going to work. I certainly don't expect to come in and have all the answers, but I know without a doubt that I'll come in and listen, understand, take my place at the table, and do it well.
What is your view of the respective roles of the school board, the superintendent, and the teachers in the development and selection of classroom curricula, textbooks, etc.?
I would say from a trustee's position with respect to the curriculum, I'm not educated in that area. What I know is what I learned as I went through, what my children are learning. So I would say for me, my role or trustee's role would be to understand what's being done presently, what are the outcomes. I think the district does a nice job of measuring the success of programs, no different than how I measured at work, and probably Mr. Subiger is measured at work, where he measures his staff, that you have goals and you evaluate and analyze those outcomes, and you figure out is that curriculum working or not. From the administration of the district, I think being open to hear what the teachers are experiencing. They're the ones obviously in their day-to-day working with the children, seeing if they're catching on, are they making progress, is is that curriculum that was probably test piloted maybe in a single classroom, is it now having effect on a broad array of students, and being receptive to understanding and listening to those suggestions, because certainly if the outcomes aren't there, then something's missing. And then I think one of the parts of the question of the teacher, what's the role of the teacher? Was that one of the pieces? I mean, I think sharing their voice in the appropriate way, sharing their voice to their principals and other administration on what's working and what's not, so we're not continuing to go down a path that's not producing the outcomes, producing those returns that we expect, and what we're investing a tremendous amount of money, time, effort, resources into getting.
In developing curriculum, it has to be done collaboratively. The board plays a minor role in this. Administration plays a role. I think the teachers and the curriculum providers, play a bigger role. The teachers have to find something that they're comfortable with. The curriculum has to offer some continuity. I believe if we're going to adopt a math curriculum or a language arts curriculum, that we need to go with a curriculum provider that provides continuity from one grade level to other, so it's a natural transition each year as students go from one grade level to the next. The curriculum has to be accountable. It has to be reviewable. On an annual basis, the curriculum experts need to gather and determine, is this curriculum working? Do the test results and the teachers, justify the use of this curriculum? Do we make the right choice here? Do we need to rethink this? So it's a dynamic process. It's difficult to choose curriculum. On the one hand, once you choose curriculum, you want to stay with it because you don't want to be constantly changing. But then on the other hand, if it's not working, you need to accept that it's not working and go on to something else. Curriculum's an expensive item. It's important. It needs to be carefully considered and reviewed collectively.
Are you prepared to abide by and sign the Code of Ethics for school board members?
In a word, yes.
And I glossed through them pretty quick, but absolutely. I think kind of the common thread of the number of initiatives there is kind of integrity, and absolutely, I'm willing and capable of signing.
Okay, we're going to have one last question.
As a former professor in an MBA program, one of the biggest questions I always had was, what is your style? How do you see your leadership role within your organization? Whoever wants to answer it, you can.
Well, I'm a listener. I'm a listener. I like to gather information from various sources, and I like to listen, to other decision makers. I like to collaborate with other decision makers. I don't like to make spontaneous decisions. I like to carefully consider things, research things, discuss things, and hopefully reach a consensus with my fellow board members about what's the best strategy for going forth and solving this problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would say my leadership style is similar, and I get paid to be analytical. That's what I get. I guess where my paycheck ultimately comes from is to analyze data, and so I think naturally, kind of in the same way that you shared, is I like to gather that information, gather different viewpoints, and then kind of make a decision, lead that decision. And I think how you lead, for me, I feel like changes depending on those who I'm around. I guess my history with those people. I enjoy, with those who I work around, to put them in situations or ask them to take on leadership roles when that may not be what they're most comfortable in. I think it's fun to challenge others to kind of take on some responsibility that's maybe not always comfortable or that's challenging. I think, when you stress those situations, I think the collaborative measures and outcomes, I think, become more dynamic rather than that leadership voice always coming from the same person. Certainly in situations, your title or your position requires you to take that ultimate leadership position, and I've done that.
Perla, do you have any additional questions?
No, I should.
Geraldine,
Yes?
do you have any additional questions you want to ask?
I don't. I really appreciate the thoroughness of all their answers. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to remind, before I open for nominations, I'm going to remind everyone the nominations do not require a second. And with that, I'm going to open the nominations.
I nominate Mr. Meyer.
Okay. Is there any other nominations?
Yeah, this is a rough one. I mean, I'm incredibly impressed with the achievements your kids have accomplished, and I'm having a rough time with this one.
Well, yeah. Right, I think we have I don't really, again, we don't have a wrong answer here. We got two excellent candidates. They have their own attributes, but, so, Geraldine, do you have any nominations? Joan? I'm sorry.
No, I'm comfortable voting. I really appreciated the input from both of them, and I do think that we are really honored to have two such good candidates both present for this seat.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll second your nomination.
We don't, yeah, it doesn't require a second. So if there's no more nominations, I'm going to close nominations. Since we only have one, I'm going to do a roll call starting down with Mr. Decker, working our way back. So,
Okay.
how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Second, vote yes.
Yes. Yes. Geraldine?
Yes?
It's been unanimous. So, Mr. Meyer, welcome to the board. And I want to thank you, Mr. Suppinger, for your application coming forward, doing an excellent job. It was obviously we had two very qualified candidates, and I don't think there was any way that we can come out on the wrong end of this. But we had to make a decision, and so I want to thank you both for doing that. The next meeting is when you'll be sworn in. What's the date on that, Kelly?
23rd of this month.
Hope you can make it. Okay, thank you very much. With that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelly. I will hang it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.